Welcome to the 9th and last segment in this CEA series. In the first 8 segments, you learned why and how to do a cost-effectiveness analysis. In this final installment, we'll offer some parting thoughts on next CEA steps for you. We hope you've enjoyed and learned from this introductory tour of cost-effectiveness analysis. There are several CEA paths you could follow in future. Perhaps you now feel sufficiently motivated and empowered to perform your own CEA. That's terrific. You could become an expert on cost effectiveness in your area of focus in health, such as a specific disease or services delivery approach. However, performing CEAs should not be taken lightly. It requires lots of hard work, both conceptual and mechanical, in designing and implementing analyses. We estimate that each CEA takes 3 to 12 months of effort, depending on the complexity of the problem and the experience of the analyst. You could proceed on your own or lead a team. You'd need substantial salary and technical support. If you're excited about CEA, go for it. Feel free to contact us for leads on additional resources. Let's assume for the moment that you're intrigued about the idea of developing your own cost-effectiveness analysis using the formats we've presented. Then the first step is to pick your topic. Ask yourself, what is the intervention and what is the comparator? Think of a specific intervention that you have been looking into or interested in. What is the option that you're comparing it to? What outcome measures are appropriate? Remember, you want to include natural units of health, like deaths or years of life. You also want to include measures that your clinical colleagues would relate to, such as viral suppression or other measures or indicators of effectiveness of the intervention. How will you measure program costs? Remember, you need to list the resources such as staff and supplies, equipment, and so on. For the particular program that you're studying, how will you do that? Is it a program that's already happened, so you can go back and look at old records and interview the program manager? Or is the program something you'd implement and analyze? If so, you could set up prospective measurements of program costs. Here's a really interesting task. How will you adjust for changes in direct medical costs resulting from the intervention? In the male circumcision example we gave, you avert the cost of medical care for HIV because you avert new HIV infections. In the adherence counseling example, you actually add to medical care costs because you keep people alive to receive more ART. You need to think about this for your example. What induced costs or savings will there be? Finally, most challenging, sketch out a decision tree. What's the choice? What are some of the key consequences? Once you map out a tree, you've really conceptualized the CEA and you're ready to dive into the details, collect data, make the tree functional, conduct analyses, and soon write up a report. One important warning though, the process is often iterative. Each step may lead to insights that require you to revise previous steps. It's part of the fun of this kind of analysis, but you may need to get used to a research process that does not proceed uniformly forward. The reference case is the analysis configuration that should be included in every CEA, according to advisory bodies. This fosters comparability. Other results can be reported too, for example with different health outcomes. The reference case includes 6 issues, which we've mostly covered. The cost effectiveness results should include net costs per DALY averted or QALY gained. Costs should be societal, included regardless of who pays, for direct medical costs. That means it's okay to omit non-medical costs like taxis and time costs to patients. Future spending and health events should be discounted at 3% per year to reflect time preferences. The time horizon should be adequate to capture intervention effects. All cost parameters such as currency, date of prices, and inflation and currency conversions should be reported. Finally, of course, sensitivity analyses must be included. If you're intrigued by CEA but not ready to take the lead, consider collaborating on an analysis. Somebody else, perhaps a medical decision analyst or health economist, could take the lead and you could offer your expertise in the subject area. This would involve multiple discussions and paper drafts working out the CEA design, data, and interpretation of results. That way you learn more about CEA but not take on the heavy-duty responsibilities of leading one. Even if you don't want to participate in a CEA, we hope that at least you'll become a more critical reader of published CEAs. There are some basic questions you can ask of each study. Are the comparisons correct? Does the CEA accurately characterize the intervention choices and use an appropriate incremental comparison of those options? If not, how does the presented comparison skew the results? Are the health inputs correct? Does the CEA properly characterize the population being modeled in terms of disease and risk factors? Is intervention effectiveness based on solid empirical data? Are disease events properly translated into DALYs or QALYs? Are the cost inputs correct? Were costs reasonably measured, including the value of contributed resources? Are averted or induced costs properly portrayed? Finally, are temporal issues properly addressed? That is the time horizon adequate and are unit costs appropriately inflated and future events discounted? Finally, you can ignore CEA. Needless to say, we'd be disappointed if you take this option after watching these videos. Many people who ignore CEA do so because they don't understand it, but now you do. However, we recognize that there are important considerations in health intervention design that have nothing to do with cost effectiveness, and that not everybody can be a CEA expert, and that some people object to any discussion that might limit health interventions due to economic considerations. Let me end with a basic restatement of our philosophy. We believe that in a world where funds are limited, consideration of cost effectiveness has the potential to increase the health value of the funds we have. That's why we do the work we do, and hope that you will join us in this perspective and effort.